Hi everyone, welcome to Crochet Rocks. I'm going to show you in this tutorial how to make my Baby Gems blanket in this Baby Gems rainbow blanket. This is a spike stitch, but I did change it for my own kind of purposes. So it's not, strictly speaking, a proper stitch. It's not too difficult. It's slightly more difficult than making a granny square, a granny stitch, but not a great deal. So I'm going to aim this tutorial to say that a beginner could do this. Honestly, I do believe that if you're a beginner, you could master this quite easily. So this blanket, I have used a 3-weight double knitting yarn. So I have used 100-gram ball of yellow because yellow is my main colour. I started with the yellow and I ended the blanket with yellow, and I've done the border, and that 100-gram ball, this was what I had left, so I used all of it. So if you wanted to make sure you had two just in case for your main colour, then you know you don't really want to be playing yarn chicken at the end of it. So my main colour, I had 100 grams, and I had 8 50-gram balls in pastel shades. So just like this one, really. They're all DK weights. They're all quite good good matches for size. You know, I made sure that they were all very, very similar, because sometimes a 3-weight can be a lot thinner than another 3-weight yarn, which, you know, I feel like it shouldn't be, but that can always happen. So I used 8 50-gram balls of colour. And then I have this, which is what I made my border with, and I achieved this look, which I really love. I've done this before with a bright coloured variegated yarn, but this time I used this pastel one, and I have used this yarn before. It's the Paint Box by Robin, and before the pandemic they did sort of, or during the pandemic they did go under, but somebody has resurrected them. But I'm not sure you can get this colour anymore. But what you need is a variegated yarn where the colour changes are quite rapid. So if you see, you get about a stitch to a stitch and a half out of each colour, and it changes quite rapidly. Now, as I say, somebody has brought Robin back from Oblivion, and they do have a really lovely pink colour. They also have a turquoise, which I do have some, but it's all packed away in cellophane. But I can show you this one. Just bear with me 1 second. This is the newer colour, which would work just as well if your main colour was the pink. They do have other colours on the websites. I think, I want to say it was Lovecraft's that I got it from. I'm not sure. But anyway, any variegated, pretty pastel, or if you're using bright colours, any bright one would do. And it's lovely border. I've used it before and I really liked it. So what I particularly like about this is the way I have adapted this spike so that it fans out a little better and closes up the gap, so it's a little fatter at the top, and it creates like these diamonds, and I really like that, the fact that it goes into these kind of diamonds. So I'm going to show you how I did it, and I'm going to just move this out of the way. Now this stitch is multiples of 4. I've used a 4.5mm crochet hook, and if you want to, you can use a 5 just to do the chain, just to make sure that it will be wide enough and it won't bunch. This is just a hook I got free in a magazine. It's a Bella Coco hook that I got free in a magazine. So I'm going to do, for my blanket, it took 120 chain, and it measured 28 inches by 42 because it's quite a large one. I wanted it to fit on a child's cot. So if you wanted to make it smaller, maybe for a stroller or a car seat, then just remember it's multiples of 4 and you can adjust it. Likewise, if you wanted to make it bigger for a nice bed size, just make it bigger with multiples of 4. But obviously you will have to judge the yarn for yourself in that respect. But for this blanket, I did 10 rows before I changed colour, and 10 rows gave me a nice bit left over of a 50-gram ball, but it wasn't tight. Unless you crochet much more loose than I do, you will have a nice little bit left over from the 50-gram, but you really will need maybe 50 grams. So I did a couple of swatches as well to show you what it's like in one colour, because when I first started doing it, I loved it in lemon and I didn't really want to make the rainbow. I thought I was kind of in two minds whether to keep it all just one colour and do the lemon. That particular lemon yarn was a King Cole, a new one I think, and it was really lovely and soft and drapey, and I loved the way it was working up. This one's kind of sturdy, but this is what it looks like with just white. And I also did it with a variegated yarn, but this one I just picked this up in a really cheap store. This is from a store in the UK called B&M, and it's just a nice inexpensive store. They're £2.50 per ball, and this is that marbled kind of yarn where it's got white in with the colour, and it's got light blues and a little bit darker blues, and when it works up it has this striping, a little bit of banding, and these white peaks kind of look nice because of the colours that are woven together. But that's what it looks like with variegated. That's what it looks like with just plain white. So I just wanted to show that to you. So we're going to make a swatch for this blanket today. Like I said, if you're making the blanket, you want 120 chain, but I'm just going to do a little swatch with you, just to show you how it's done, how we change colour and everything. So I'm going to do start with pink and end with pink, make this little square swatch, and I will show you how to do the border at the end of it. So you just need to make a slip knot, and I was taught this way. Just make a loop, put the yarn behind it and through, just pull it, and you've got yourself a slip knot. Nice and easy. Insert the hook. I'm going to use the 5. I don't need to do that, but I think it's a nice little trick if you don't want your chain to be tight and you're not very good at gauging it. So I'm going to do a chain of 32 for this swatch. So for a chain, we just yarn over and pull through the loop that's on the hook. Simple as that. So yarn over and pull through the loop that's on the hook, and that's how we chain. So I'm going to do 32 of them, and I'm going to pause the video because if I'm counting it can really put you off. So I'm just going to pause it, and I'll catch up with you again when I've got the rest. I've got the other 30. So I've got my 32. I'm just going to take that hook out and put my 4.5mm hook. So all of my yarns are 3 weight or DK, and I'm using a 4.5mm hook. You'll also need darning needles and a pair of scissors. Doesn't make a great deal of ends for sewing in, which isn't too bad. That's a project that I like. So with this, we are going to go into the 4th chain from hook. So this loop doesn't count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to go into this one. We're going to yarn over and put our hook through that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 3 on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Now in the UK, that's called a treble crochet, but in the US it's a double. So we're going to do 2 more in that same chain, just like we're doing a regular granny stitch for this row. Okay, so we're going to skip 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 and go in the 4th, and we're going to do 3 more. And we're going to do that all the way to the end. I'll hold that in my finger just to show you. We're going to skip 1, 2, 3, go into this one. We're going to do another 3. It may seem like a big long gap, but we need that gap. 1, 2, 3 into the 4th, and we're going to do 3. Whoops, took too many out there. And we're just going to do that to the end. Pull out some more yarn. So I'm going to pause it because you're going to be a bit bored watching me go all the way to the end. So I will come back to you when I've got my remaining 4 chain left. Okay, so this is how it's looking, and we've got 4 chain remaining. We're going to skip our 3, and in our last one we're going to do 2 UK trebles or US double crochet in that same one, just 2. And that's the end of our first row. Now obviously you'll have a lot more than this if you're doing the whole blanket. So now I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and we're now going to work in between these clusters, and we're going to do this slightly differently. So I wanted, as I said, a nice fat stitch for this top so that it closed it in nicely. So I adapted a spike stitch, and I'm going to show you how I did that. So we're going to work in here, and we're going to do 1 UK treble or US double crochet, and now we're going to yarn over twice, and we're going to look to the bottom. We've got 1, 2, 3 chains. You want that middle one, so we're just going to go in there, yarn over and pull up a loop, pull it up a little way, and we're going to yarn over, pull through 2. We've got 3 on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. Now normally when you're doing a UK double treble where you yarn over twice, or that's called a treble crochet in the US, you'll go through 2, through 2 and through 2. But I didn't want that. I wanted the same length of stitch. I didn't want a long lanky stitch, and I wanted it to be nice and chubby at the end. So I finished it as if I was doing a half treble, which is a half double in the US. So now we're going to do our last, because we're working in 3s. We've got our first stitch, that's our second. So if you look down the side of this one here, that's our space. So you just do your last UK treble, US double in there. And that's what we're going to do in every one along. So we're going to do our first one like a normal granny, yarn over twice, go into that middle chain of those 3 at the bottom and pull up a little way, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3. So there you can see at the side of this stitch is the gap, and we're just going to finish off. We're going to do that all the way along. Now it doesn't look particularly closed in yet until we get to the next row, but it will. I'll stay with you because it is a different stitch. Pull up a little way, through 2, through 3, and then finish off with our third. I'm just going to pull some more yarn. Okay. So we're going to do that in every single one of these spaces. And it does kind of pull up, make that, you can easily see where you've got to go in. There's 1, 2, 3, so we're going in the second one. Always the centre one. It does kind of, I'll show you when I finish this one. Whoops. Knock the camera. Let's move it back. It does kind of make this one a little squatty, if you see what I mean. But it does even out. Don't worry if it's looking bunched up. It's fine. Into the centre one. Pull up the loop a little way each time. Almost at the end. Don't want to pull up too far. I know sometimes when you're doing a mosaic you need to pull up quite a bit, but not with this one. Just a little way. Okay, so we're at the end. Now what we need to do is find our top chain, which is here. There's our bottom one, there's our top. So we're going to just do 2, like we did at the other end. We're going to do 2 in that one. Just 2 regular UK trebles or US double crochets. Chain 2 and turn it. So that's what it's looking like now. And it still doesn't look like the diamonds pattern. It still doesn't look right yet, but it will start to now. So we're going to do, that's our repeat. This row here is our repeat for the rest of the blanket. Okay, so I'm only going to do 4 rows in the pink, and then I'll change colour to show you. But for the blanket I did 10 rows, and you will see as we go on it becomes a little difficult to find or to count your rows, and you can easily get one too many, but there are ways around it, and I'll show you that in a moment. So we're going to carry on with our repeat row, and in this one obviously we're not going in the chain, we're going in the middle stitch, and for some it's nice and obvious because it has this slightly larger V at the top, which is quite good because you know you get to see it quite easily, and you can see you've got to go in next to that previous cluster to finish it off, so you can always see where it is you have to go. There it is, nice big V. Put it up a little way. So there you go, there's our previous one. You get to see it quite clearly after a while where you've got to go. So that's all we're doing. You can see now we're getting the V's, the nice kind of diamond shapes. So I'm going to do that in every single one of our gaps until I get to this one, and I will come back to you. Okay, so I'm up the end again, and I just wanted to show you once more we're going into the top of our chain. There's our first, there's our second, so our stitches go into this chain here. We're going to just do our 2. I did try this with 1 at the end, but because of this we do need 2. It just otherwise it pulls it too much, and to straighten it up we need 2. So there we are. Now I said I'd show you. It can be difficult to count your rows because the first, they do kind of go like half rows if you like. So there's 1, 2, and it goes 3, 4. So it can be difficult to see them. But if you get the first row and it looks like, see there's the reverse of the stitch. You can always see the back of a stitch. So as long as your first row that you're looking at is this way round, you can see 1, 2, 3. So next row is my fourth row. So I'm going to do 4 rows and change colour. So I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to do 1 more row with the pink. I will end with the pink so that I kind of show you how I did with my blanket, although it was lemon, not pink. But as you could see, I used rather a lot of that. It's not enough to work with now. So I'm going to just repeat that last row again all the way along. So I'll pause the video, and I will come back to you when I get to the end, and I'll show you how we change our colour. Okay, so I've gone all the way along and I've done one in my top chain. I'm going to do my second, but I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to go through two. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave a nice long tail for sewing in and just move the pink out of the way. I'll come back to the pink a little while later. And so the next colour I'm going to do is this blue. So I'm just going to hold that behind and this yarn so that I've got them nice and the tension's nice and tight. I'm just going to finish that stitch. I'm going to do a chain and cinch it right down. Now this is just how I always change colour. So you don't have to do this, but for extra security, I always like to just do a little knot. I know some people hate that, but I don't want it coming undone ever. So when I'm working, I now work this colour in. So I've only ever got one tail to work in. But it's very confusing to look at the way that I weave an end in. So I won't show you that. I'll just let it dangle. You can sew that in however you would like. But obviously when I come to do the border, this one would have been worked in. All I need to do is incorporate that one when I'm bringing up the border. So there was very, very little sewing and you know, sewing in of ends. So that's as easy as that to change the colour. So all I do now is my 2 chain to turn and do exactly the same as I did before with my new colour. Exactly. It's just a 1 row repeat pattern. Nice and simple. Very easy to do and watch TV, which is what I like about it. And I also like the fact that there are very, very few holes. It's a nice warm pattern. And I wanted, as I say, to get that top part a bit fuller to even that out. I didn't really want a long, lanky stitch. I wanted it to look nice. So you do get this kind of uneven colour change, you know, where it goes, because it is a spike stitch, so it does come down into the next row, but then when you come back it takes it to here, so it isn't too much of a drastic kind of change, if you know what I mean. You just get half a row in the end. So I like it anyway. I like the way it looks when you change colour, and I like everything about it. So I'm going to carry on and do my clusters, and I'm going to do another 4 rows. So you can see what I mean when you're counting your rows. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is 5. So that's, you do have to have a little bit of your wits about you when you're doing the rainbow and making sure you've got your 10 rows. I mean, obviously you can adapt it. You can do smaller. You can do your 4 rows. It really doesn't matter, as long as you make sure you have enough yarn of any colour that you need. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'm going to just carry on with this blue, and I nearly picked up a bit of pink there. So I'm just going near the end. I'll stay until the end, and then I will pause it and just do my 4 rows with this colour and change to another. So I'm at the end. There's my first chain, there's my second, and I'll do my 2 in there, and we're ready to turn. And so once we turn our work, we'll just show you how that looks with the colour changed, and you know, the second row. There we go. It's easier to see sometimes than others where to go in. Usually there's a nice big V, so you can't miss it. We'll just get to the end of this row, and we'll see the difference with the colour change. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I will catch up with you when I get to the end of this row, and we'll look at the difference in the colour change. Okay, so there we are. It kind of stops it from being such a big drop, I think, when it goes into this part as well. So that's how we're changing colour. I'm going to do another 2 rows in the blue, and I'll come back to you and we'll swap to another colour. Okay, so now I've got to the end. I'm going to change colour this time to a peachy colour. And bring my new colour in. I got a little bit baggy, that one, so I'm just going to pull it a little bit, bring my new colour and cinch it down. So I'm just going to tie that one off. And now I'm going to do 4 rows in this colour. And now you've seen how to do it and how to change colour, I'm just going to pause it now until I've got a nice square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end on the same colour. So it'll be pink, and then we'll do the border in pink, just to show you how I've done it. But if you can see now with the blue, it's a little bit more prominent colour. You can see, you can count your rows this way. It's easier to see with the blue. Okay, so I'm going to pause it and I will come back to you once I've completed a square of my swatch, and I will show you how to do the rest. Okay, so I've done my 4 rows of different colours and I've finished on the pink row the same as I ended off. So I'm now ready to do the border. So first thing we have to do is work our way back along here and make this this row without the, make it so that we don't have the hole. So all we do is, this is our corner stitch. So I'm going to do a chain and cinch it down. I always do that when I'm doing a corner. Now I'm going to do 2 UK double crochets in this stitch, which in the US is a single crochet. So we just insert our hook into that space, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both. And we're going to do 1 more in that same stitch. Now in the corner we will have 3 stitches, will always be the corner. But I like to finish my round, because we're now working all the way around this this swatch, which would be the blanket, and I like to finish with my yarn dead center of that particular corner. And this is how we do it. We'll just do 2 for now. We'll go all the way around and we'll finish off putting the 3rd one back in there. So now we're going to yarn over twice and do our long stitch exactly the same as before. And now we're going to just do a UK double or US single in that one and this one, and now we're back at this gap and we're doing that again. And I know it looks like the stitch count shouldn't work out, but it does when you get to the end. It's not pulling, it's just right. And that's all we do all the way along to the end. And that one just pulls that so that it's nice and straight and it closes that gap. So we're going to carry on and do that all the way along until we get to the corner. So I'm going to pause it and I shall catch up with you when we get there. Okay, so I've worked my way all the way to the end, and now here is our 2 chain. So in the top one of our 2 chain, where we've always gone into, I'm going to put in 3 UK double crochets or US single crochets, and that turns the corner for us. We're now going to be working along this edge, and all we're going to do is pick up a stitch at the correct interval. So we're going to go into here. We don't want too many or it will pucker, so it just judge the width of the stitch, and so I'm going to go into here. I'll try and go in to two stitches each time, so that I'm definitely going through a nice chunk of a stitch. And so go into this one, but what I don't want to do is do this, so I split the whole stitch. I want to go in between it. So I've gone into 2 loops there. So that's what we're doing, and we want to keep it so that it's nice and even, that we're not pulling our stitches too far apart, and equally we haven't got too many that are bunching up. So now we're going to do it along the next colour. Need to pull out some yarn. So just try and space them out. You can see, once you kind of have a look at it, you can see where you need to place your hook. So just do that until we get to the next corner, all the way along. So I'm going to pause it and I will meet up with you at the next corner. Just a quick one. I counted how many stitches I made it along each colour, and they're 6. So I'm going to just make sure that I try and keep to that count, and then they'll all be a night's width apart. So I just thought I'd just sort of mention that. Okay, so I've gone all the way along, and it's worked out for my little swatch that I had 6 in between each of the colours. So the next one would be my 6th one at the corner. Obviously if you've got 10 rows it'd be an awful lot more for yourselves, but this is just a way of spacing it so that you make sure you get the same each time. So I'm now going into the corner and I'm going to do my 3 stitches in the corner. Now I'm going along the bottom edge, and it does look a little strange along this bottom edge, so you just kind of go in between, and I'm going to work over the tails now when I encounter them. So some of these are where you've gone into them on the previous row with 3 stitches. They're a bit elongated, but that's fine. So just pick up your stitches along here, try to make them nice and spaced out, don't put too many in. You want to try and keep it nice and flat and even, but it's easy to pick them up along this edge. It's more these edges that are difficult, and of course this edge is where all the tails are, which you can either sew in before you do it or work them in, as I'm going to for this, on the purposes of this one, or you could have worked them in as you go. It just depends on what you've done. So I'm going to go all the way around now, do 3 in this corner, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to the start. I'm just going to pick up 6 along each of these. Obviously yours will be a different width, and I'll see you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. I've got rid of all of those tails. So now I'm back at the start, and there are the 2 that I did in that corner. So I'm going to do my 3rd one, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the next one, so the middle really, of the 3, and that puts us slap bang in the middle of the corner. So I'm going to do my chain and cinch it down, and now I'm going to do 2 again in this very same stitch, and when I've gone all the way around I will finish that one off again and be finishing in the center of that corner. So now I'm going to go in every single one of the stitches that I've picked up all the way around. I'm going to put 3 in the corner stitch, and I'm going to do 4 rounds of UK double crochet or US single crochet. So it's much easier now. You've picked up all of your stitches, and it's just going to be a nice kind of inch wide border. 4 rows is perfect for the blanket. It may look a little bit big on a little swatch like this, but 4 rows on the blanket is actually quite nice. If I get the blanket back, and I can show you on one of the coloured sections rather than the yellow. You can see it's nice, and it's a nice width. That's the 4 rows. But it's not, obviously not the end of the border. There will be another row. So that's all I'm going to do now, is 1 stitch in every single one all the way around, and 3 when I get to the corners, and I'm going to do that for another 3 rows or rounds, including this one. So I'll stay with you until we get to the next corner, and I'll show you that going around the corner. Bear with me a second, just pulling out some yarn. Okay, so just 1 in each. Until the end. I'm going as slow as I can, but if I do go ahead of you, then just by all means pause the video and catch up with me. I always try to remember to slow down when I'm doing a tutorial. Did I go in the stitch there? There we go. Okay, so we're coming up for the corner. Sometimes it's difficult to see which is your corner. Other times it's nice and obvious. So here we are, we're at the corners. We're going to do 3 in this next one, just to turn that corner. Okay, and then 1 in every stitch along this edge. And then we'll get to this corner, do our 3, and we'll go back on ourselves. Some of my ends just need a little tidy up there, but that's fine. So I'm going to pause it, finish this round and do 2 more, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I'm almost there at the end. Got a couple more to do, that one, and where's my corner stitch? There we are. Seems like a big jump. Where are we? There it is. To do my last one and slip stitch into that middle one, but I'm going to use my new yarn to bring the yarn through. You can just end off with this colour and pick up again with the next if you want to, but I'm going to just change my yarn during my last stitch. So I'm going to bring in my variegated yarn. Just pulling out some yarn, bear with me a sec, there we are. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to that as I did before when I was changing colour. Bring my new colour through and do my 1 chain and cinch it down. And now I'm just going to secure that at the back with a little knot. And I have to apologise because there is one subscriber, I think it's just the one, who hates me doing that. I don't like it. Right, so now This does look really, really effective, but it is extremely simple. And what we're going to do in this corner, and I'm going to work over these tails at the same time, is we're going to yarn over, we're going to do a half treble or a half double in the US. So we're yarning over, we're going back into that same place that we have just slip stitched into. We're going to yarn over and we're going to pull up our loops. So we've got 3 loops on our hook, and this time we yarn over and we pull through all 3, and then we're going to do another one exactly the same in that same space. So that's 2. Remember, we're going all the way round, and our third one will be back in there to finish off our corner. So now we're just going to do a half treble or half double if you're on the other side of the pond in each stitch along, and I'm going over the tail as I go. And that is it, as simple as it gets, but it does look beautiful. It does look really unusual. And I did this, as I say, with bright coloured yarn, the one that I got from Poundland. So you get 3 balls, 150 grams for £2, and I finished a blanket with that, and it did look really stunning. So we just go all the way around. When we get to the corner, just as usual, we do 3 in the corner to go around it. It's just nice and simple, but looks lovely. So I'm just going to get rid of those now and just go in every single stitch all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to pause it, and I shall meet up with you at this corner, and we'll go round one corner together. Okay, so we're at the corner. I'm going to do 3 in the one stitch just to get around the corner, just as we did on the previous rows with the other stitch. Just need to pull out some yarn, and then we're just going 1 in every stitch all the way along this edge to the next corner, and we're only going to do 1 round with this stitch, just the 1 round, finish it off. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then. I'm going to go all the way round doing 3 in my corners, and I shall meet up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so we're almost there at the very end. Just got a couple more to do, and then a last one, and slip stitch into the next one, and then we just end off and it's finished. So there we are. That's how we do the actual blanket and the border. So this is what it looks like if you want to do it with shorter stripes. This is how it would be if you wanted to just do one colour. It always looks very different in white to other colours. And this is the variegated. And of course, the original blanket, when you have the quite wide strips of colour with 10 rows. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If, like I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye bye for now.